You keep replaying the same conversation in your head. Was that cruel, or was that just them having a bad day? You've asked yourself this question so many times you've lost count. Is this person actually a narcissist, or are they just difficult, selfish, or going through a hard season? That question matters more than you think, because getting it wrong in either direction costs you something. Call every difficult person a narcissist, and you lose the ability to have real, repairable relationships. But keep excusing an actual narcissist, and you can lose years of your life to a pattern that was never going to change. By the end of this video, you won't just have a feeling. You'll have a framework. 5 clear distinctions psychologists actually use. Let's get into it. Here's the first, and honestly the most important one. It's not about how someone makes you feel in a single moment. It's about what happens after you tell them. A difficult person can be selfish, moody, even hurtful. But when you point it out clearly, something in them flickers. Discomfort, guilt, a quiet, "Oh, I didn't realize that landed like that." A narcissist experiences that same feedback completely differently. Not as information, as a threat. The response isn't reflection, it's defense. Sometimes loud, often quiet, cold, dismissive. But always defense, never reflection. Picture 2 versions of the same moment. You tell someone, "When you cancelled last minute, it really hurt me." A difficult person might get defensive at first, maybe even snap back. But somewhere in the next hour or day, something softens. "I've been thinking about what you said. You're right, that wasn't fair." A narcissist, hearing the exact same sentence, tends to respond with something that sounds almost rehearsed. "You're always so sensitive about everything." Same words from you, completely different outcome, because the two of them are processing the feedback through entirely different systems. Let's talk about the mask, because this one trips up a lot of people. Difficult people are usually consistently difficult. You know what you're getting, in public and in private. It's not comfortable, but it's stable. A narcissist often runs 2 performances, charming with an audience, cold the second the door closes. If you've ever said "nobody believes me, they think you're so nice," and felt that specific loneliness, that gap is one of the clearest signals there is. This is often the part that makes people feel the most alone, because it doesn't just confuse you, it isolates you. You start avoiding certain topics with friends and family, not because you're hiding something, but because you already know the reaction you'll get. Really, they seem so great. And each time that happens, you quietly learn to stop bringing it up, which means the public mask doesn't just fool other people, it slowly convinces you to doubt your own experience too. Here's a distinction that involves something we all think we understand. Apologies. Difficult people can apologize badly. Awkward, short, even a little defensive. But it still centers on what they did. A narcissist often produces something that sounds like an apology, but isn't one. Psychologists call it a non-apology. "I'm sorry you feel that way." Notice the subject of that sentence. So it's not their action, it's your reaction. The responsibility just quietly shifted, and if you weren't listening closely, you'd miss it completely. Let's slow down on this one, because it deserves more attention than most people give it. A real apology, even a clumsy one, tends to be followed by a small change in behaviour afterward. That's the actual proof, not the words themselves. A non-apology is almost always followed by the exact same behaviour, sometimes within days, sometimes within hours. So the real test isn't what someone says in the moment, it's what happens next once the conversation is over and nobody's watching anymore. Now here's where it gets tricky, and honestly, this is the one that leaves people feeling the most confused afterward. Difficult people, in conflict, are usually trying to be understood, clumsy, defensive, but still aimed at the actual issue. With a narcissist, conflict often isn't about the event at all. It's about who controls the story. This is what's called word salad. The conversation drifts, old grievances get pulled in, your tone gets criticised instead of your point. If you've ever walked away thinking, "Wait, what did we even start talking about?" that disorientation isn't your failure to communicate. It's often exactly the point. You brought up one specific thing, maybe something small, a broken promise, a missed call, and somehow 20 minutes later, you're defending a mistake you made 3 years ago, apologising for a tone of voice, and completely unable to remember what actually started the conversation in the first place. That's not a coincidence, and it's not you being bad at communicating. It's a strategy, whether it's fully conscious or not, and the strategy works because confusion is easier to control than clarity. Here's the last one, and it might be the most telling. When you get healthier, more confident, more boundaried, a difficult person, even an insecure one, usually adjusts, clumsily, sometimes uncomfortably. But they adjust. A narcissist tends to experience your growth as a loss of access, and that loss often triggers escalation, sudden charm, sudden vulnerability, sometimes even a smear campaign. The same is true for accountability over time. Difficult people over weeks and months show occasional moments of real accountability. Not perfect, not constant, but genuine moments where they own something without immediately following it with a justification. A narcissist's accountability, when it shows up at all, almost always arrives paired with something that cancels it out. I know I messed up, but you have to admit you do this too. The apology and the counterattack arrive in the same breath, which means the accountability never actually gets to land on its own. You end up feeling like something was resolved, when actually nothing was. Now, I need to pause here, because this framework can become its own trap if you're not careful. Not every hard, hurtful, or even cruel moment means someone is a narcissist. People go through real seasons, grief, burnout, untreated depression, and during those seasons, they can look a lot like what we just described. The difference is almost always duration versus baseline. A hard season eventually ends, or shows visible effort toward ending. A narcissistic pattern doesn't have a season. It has a baseline. If you're asking yourself, is this the hard time talking, or is this just who they are? The honest answer is usually found by looking backward, not forward. Was there ever a version of this relationship that didn't look like this? Or has this, underneath the good moments, always been the pattern? And if you've been protecting your own sanity by stepping back from someone, you don't need to feel guilty for that. Trusting the pattern you're seeing is not cruelty. It's self-respect. It's worth saying clearly here that none of this is about collecting evidence to win an argument with someone. It's about giving yourself permission to trust what you have already noticed, instead of constantly explaining it away. Most people who ask this question already know the answer somewhere inside. What they're really asking for is permission to believe it. So here's your 5-point checklist. 1. Does feedback ever produce reflection, or only defense? 2. Is there a real gap between who they are in public and who they are with you? 3. Do their apologies own the action, or redirect to your reaction? 4. Does accountability ever show up without a counterattack attached? And 5. Does the relationship adjust when you grow, or does it start to feel threatened? None of this is about diagnosing anyone. It's about trusting the pattern you're actually seeing, instead of the explanation you keep being given for it. If this helped you make sense of a relationship you've been trying to understand, tell me in the comments, which distinction hit hardest for you? I read everyone, and if you haven't already, subscribe, because next time we're breaking down the exact gaslighting phrases narcissists use, the specific lines designed to make you doubt your own memory, in real time, before you even realize what's happening.